Well, I pressed the button.
You pressed your button.
I pressed my button, Gavin.
I don't have to
pressed
press a
yours.
button. I just have to make sure that everything's looking good. And everything's looking good.
Well,
Whoa,
now hold on. When you say everything's looking good,
everything's coming up golden, baby.
Hey, now.
You're a rock star. Sorry. Sorry. I might mirror my video. It looks weird.
Stop it. Stop looking weird, Gavin.
Get
better things. Get a better webcam. Get a better microphone.
I'm looking at YouTube to see what it looks like. Because, I'm all about I'm all about what I look like.
I know you're about that bass.
It literally says here, this does not affect the recorded video. So YouTube's just not changing at all. So I guess I'm stuck with myself. All right, let me get this link generated.
Right. You are stuck with yourself, Gavin. That is usually how it works.
All right, typing out the thing on the Twitters.
Typing the thing in the place.
The thing and the place and the
and the where and the how and the who and the when and the why and the what.
What's a good emoji for this?
Eggplant.
Nah, I would say that's not a good emoji for that. The phrase I use is "come hang."
Could be, Gavin. It could be a perfect.
Actually, could be a real. Yeah, I didn't think about that one. We'll do the smirking. Oh man, I didn't even think of that. That was funny. See? Okay.
Well, Gavin, you see, here's the thing. With greater age comes greater immaturity.
Is that the way that works?
That's the way it works. But you see,
Gavin, it was the other way around.
You reach peak maturity as an adult, right? And then you begin going back down again.
So, like, you hit, like, what is that? What is the tipping point? Is that 28. Like that 28?
Yeah.
You think so? You think it's not like 33? No. Is it because you're 28?
I wish I was 28, Gavin. What a world we would.
Oh, you're 29. That's right.
What a world we would live in, Gavin.
You're not 29?
I don't know, Gavin. I mean, I suppose you could always round, right? You could round your age.
You're 30?
Are you?
Since when?
Is someone 29 until they're 30, or are they 30
no.
until they're 29?
How old are you?
I don't know. You're gonna.
I thought you were 28.
You're gonna have to ask my wife.
I won't say her name. Russell's wife. How old is Russell?
Watching. Hard to say.
All right, shall we get into it? We're a couple of minutes past the hour.
Past the 9 o'clock mark.
Yes, sir.
If you want, right?
Like weird. Yeah. Yes, I do want. I want for that.
Okay, Gavin.
I long for the day.
You long for it? All right. Well, here you can long for this.
Ooh.
Gavin, I always love it. I always love our intro. Way.
That's a really good one.
It's a really good one. And folks, that intro means that it is, in fact, the MLS Now podcast. I'm your host, Russell. You can find me on social media at Mr. Danger Russ. But most importantly, and of course, the reason why you are sitting here appreciating this wonderful intro music is that you can find the podcast itself on social media at MLS Now Podcast or online at mlsnowpodcast.com. I have to say, we are officially out of preseason. I'm in mid-season form, some would even say. We're here to hit the ground running. We're not going to be shaking off the rust because, unlike the players, we never really took a full off season, if you will. So there's no requirement for me to either gel with any new co-hosts. Fortunately, we have perfect continuity going. Now the season is going. We're picking up 2024 as though 2023 never ended. But speaking of 2023, bringing in our co-host who is certainly happy to be out of 2023 because they got married in 2024, Gavin. You can find him on social media at LionsBlog1. Gavin, hello again.
Hello, hello. We are back again to
Guess who's back?
yeah,
Back
MLS is
again.
back. To kick off a new season. Feels like we just kicked off 2023 season and here we are 2024. And like you said, no, we had barely any off season. My wedding was our off season. We were gone for a week.
I did not speak with Gavin for literally dozens of hours during his wedding.
Yep.
It was the longest off season I've ever experienced in my entire life. Gavin frequently was checking his phone, being like, "Why haven't I got a text from this guy? What's going on? Does he remember that I'm alive? Does he think I died?"
I did send a couple tweets on the day, actually, mainly because Arsenal beat West Ham United 6-0 as a wedding gift. So that was nice.
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
They did it specifically for you.
For me?
Little known fact, we actually got all of Arsenal America together and they sent a letter to the team saying, please beat West Ham by 6 goals minimum. More would be better, but beat them by 6 goals minimum because we have a wonderful Arsenal supporter getting married on this day. So they followed
Bingo, baby.
because they care
Bingo.
about you, obviously.
Yeah. So, yeah, I am wifed up. I don't have my ring on right now, so I look single, but I'm not. Right. And
you look like you're ready to mingle.
I'm ready to talk about some MLS action, but I'm looking at our agenda here, and that doesn't seem to be the first thing on the docket.
No, it's not the first thing on the docket, Gavin, because I would like to, as always, begin with Old Faithful, the tried and true topic of every single good soccer podcast, and that is not talking about the soccer at all, but talking about the referee. So the refereeing was interesting to watch, if I'm being quite honest. Gavin, I would like a quick take from you. Were replacement referees better, worse, or about even with prior year when we had the official, PSRA pro referees, not the replacement referees? I will put myself out there and I will say, I don't really recall anything major aside from, maybe 1 or 2 instances. And even then, that's honestly not that bad compared to last year when we'd be like, there were 4 or 5 horrific game-changing calls that were being made.
Yeah, I can't say that anything that I disagreed with this weekend was something that I couldn't see. I'm going to refer to them as the regular guys doing. Anything that happened this weekend, we posted a video of the FC Dallas game where the ref called offsides, and there's clearly a player like a mile keeping everyone onside. I think he came off the sideline from an injury, but he was on the field. It wasn't offsides. Raises his flag. Ha ha, he he. Very funny. The regular guys have done stupid stuff like that before. It is correct. I mean, I've seen a pro regular guy referee call offsides on a throw-in. So, that's my baseline. That is my baseline here. And so nothing that was done this weekend was out of the norm for the refs. And I don't think it was out of the norm volume-wise either. I think there were some good displays, some bad middling displays, not even a truly atrocious game from any of the referees, in my opinion. I thought they were fine.
Yeah. I would say one thing of note is it seemed like there was a little bit in the way of a more physical game being allowed to be played, which was quite interesting to watch because I think certain teams that don't cope well with physical play, if this type of soccer is allowed to continue, will find the season much harder than maybe what they were expecting to see this year. So certainly I know Miami will be on the top of everyone's minds. You have some older players on there, Luis Suarez specifically. People are kind of, I guess, always mentioning and bringing up how is he on the field right now, given the situation with his body. And I'll be very curious as to other players similar in profile to Suarez, where, can they keep up with that physical of a game when you're letting that kind of tackle play, when you're letting that kind of challenge, that kind of contact, when you're not necessarily going to, call something, you're just going to say, nope, play advantage, like keep going. And teams might not be ready for that because they're going to think that it's going to get called and it won't. So definitely going to be an interesting to watch there. I will note one other thing stood out to me, and that is the assistant referees calling offsides. They definitely felt more, I don't want to say tentative in calling offsides, but they erred as far as possible on the side of caution in the majority of where I was noticing offside calls. There were instances where I'd be like, that person's offsides, and the flag wouldn't come up. And I'd be like, there's no way they were onside. The flag wouldn't come up. They'd play a couple passes, a shot would get made on goal, and then the flag would come up. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, this isn't, the person was making the run and then took the shot right away. It's like you let an entire sequence of plays, work themselves out before raising the flag. That's wild to me. And I guess technically the guidance is fine, right? You're supposed to wait to raise the flag, but ooh, it feels heart-wrenching to think that you don't know what offsides looks like, and then, the shot is saved or the shot goes in and then the flag goes up and you're like, ooh, deep breath and breathe.
I don't. I guess I didn't notice that. I saw on some occasions where it went long, or it was like, um, that looked offsides, and then it never got called, and maybe the ball went out for a throw-in. But I only saw that a couple times. For the most part, I thought offsides were, again, pretty regular to what we've seen in the past from the regular guys. Just my opinion from what I saw this weekend. I obviously didn't see every game. You and I watched different games. So, but yeah, overall, from what I did see, they looked okay. They looked okay. Could have been a lot worse. Could have been a lot worse.
It could have been a lot worse. And it's funny to me that there seemed to be a narrative going into week one that it's like, oh, well, these refs are going to be really bad. We had replacement refs in the past and they were awful and they were terrible. And you thought PSRA refs were bad. You can see nothing yet. This is going to be an absolute horror show of refereeing. And it wasn't.
Yeah, not the case. Not the case at all. I do think we need to be a little respectful here. Like it's not a great look for the pro guys, right? The professional, the regular guys. And I don't want to say like they aren't the best, because I think if we were to have a full season of this crew and a full season of the regular guys, I'm sure we would be wanting the regular guys back, no matter how frustrating they are at times. And they deserve to be paid no matter what. They deserve to make money. And so they're having to go to the extremes. And so obviously want to be respectful of what they're doing to ensure that they're getting appropriately reimbursed for their services, for their work. But at the same time, from a sporting perspective, it is interesting to see that there weren't too many major differences based on what the regular guys produce week in, week out for the league.
Yeah. I think it will be very interesting to see how further talks progress or don't progress in the wake of the replacement referee situation and any continued performances from them. I mean, if every single week is like this, week in, week out, do we see MLS/pro budge or even try to compromise if they think, well, we're getting referees that are providing the same or less drama and we're not having to pay what other people want? It could be very interesting if any resolution even gets, I guess, agreed upon.
Yeah, I'm also interested to see because at some point a resolution will be agreed upon. These are people's jobs. They will need to work them at some point. But how have they given the regular guys given the new guys the opportunity to showcase themselves and potentially be added to the current pool of referees? And maybe we can have a little bit more referees at the highest level, which I think is a good thing. So we're not overworking our referees, and they're able to have a little bit of a break, because I'm sure referees have a long season just as long as the players do, and it's a lot of travel for them as well. And so uh, if we can increase the pool a little bit, that might be helpful.
It could be, yeah.
Yeah.
One other item that I wanted to throw your way just before we move on here. Do you think in having replacement referees who are not familiar with these players that you are going to get more unbiased type officiating where certain players might have had reputations with previous regular referees, right? Where they think this guy just flops all the time, or this guy plays really hard and dirty, and we need to officiate and look out for certain players more than others, and less we're going to be less benevolent to certain players because we know them. They have a bad rap with us, and these referees don't have that. So it will be interesting if the players as well notice a change in how they're being officiated, maybe just because some subconscious bias is being eliminated.
Could be. I was actually really worried about the players not respecting the referees because they knew they were replacement refs. And I didn't see that at all, actually, for the most part. At least from what I saw, it looked like, again, normal interactions with referees, players yelling at them, players calling them idiots, whatever. But it didn't look anything out of the ordinary where players, a referee was calling a player over and the player refused to walk over because there was just that basic lack of respect there. So that was good to see. To answer your question, I'm sure there isn't that understanding, that base level of understanding from the regular guys that there is with the replacement refs. And so, yeah, players probably were refereed a little bit differently. Both the players who are the goody two shoes and the players that are like to cross that line a couple times a game.
Yeah, and I don't think these referees were afraid to pull out the cards when players were getting too aggressive. I remember one specifically, and I'm struggling to remember which match it was. I think it quite possibly could have been like maybe the Miami Galaxy game towards the very end of the match week, where there was a player that really, really vehemently disagreed with the ref, and I think it was a Sunday game is what I'm recalling, but there was a player that was like, throwing his arms out like, what are you talking about with that call? And the ref just like immediately pulled out a yellow for dissent. There was no hesitation. I can't remember which one it was.
It wasn't this one, but Duncan McGuire did get a dissent yellow card this weekend at the Orlando City match. And I think I do recall another one as well, maybe the same one you're thinking of, but I can't think the exact moment. But yeah, again, overall, I think the refs did fine. Yep. There's calls I disagreed with, happens every week.
That's right. So, okay, Gavin, I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to get past old reliable, old faithful, our tried and true, the normal cow. We're milking it dry, beating a dead horse.
The regular guys.
Yeah, the other guys. How many more turns of phrase do you want me to use here before we continue and talk about something useful instead of, vernacular and colloquialisms?
Under 0.5.
Under 0.5. Gavin, we aren't talking about betting yet.
Oh, shoot. My bad. Yeah. My bad.
And it won't be fun to talk about either, because I'm pretty sure both of us lost.
yeah, that's later in the podcast. You're spoiling the fun.
Look, over under 0.5 spoilers in this episode. Come on.
Over.
Mash the over for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, Gavin, other item here. This is just a broad, overarching item, especially as we get ahead of the match recaps here. Is it fair to say that we need to very aggressively reset our priors from 2023 going into 2024? Because there were teams that I thought were going to look very not good, for lack of better term / for being more polite than what other words might convey. I thought there were going to be some poor performances leading into 2024, and some of those teams that I specifically thought that about proved me wrong and looked quite good. Competent, I would even say. So, yeah, I mean, how aggressive do you want to be on resetting priors?
I think we should start from just about zero this season with a lot of teams. There's been a lot of shifting and changing within the teams, within the league. Happens every year. But I think a lot of the priors, so to speak, probably, I don't know, 60, 70% of teams, we got to start from zero. We got to start from scratch.
Yeah, maybe even 80%, maybe around there, 75, who knows?
I mean, let's look at St. Louis.
Yeah.
They're playing a whole different play style. A whole different play style than what we've seen from them in the past. So there's a reset prior right there. We've seen that in both their Champions Cup game and in their MLS game, they're not pressing as high anymore. They're doing a mid block. They're very disciplined in their mid block too.
Right.
Brand spanking new. So
potentially they've recognized that you can't do a whole season of that level of pressing.
That's my exact thought. Yep. That's what I put in the agenda. Yep.
I note as
learning from the past.
Almost every single match, barring like Portland, Colorado, was actually quite closely contested. And there was an enormous number of draws between Saturday and Sunday. Far more than I thought we would see. Home field advantage is generally quite strong in MLS, and yet there were 6, 7 draws in match week 1. I mean, Galaxy Miami was a draw. Nashville Red Bulls was a draw. Cincy Toronto was a draw. There's a few others that are draws.
7, I just counted. 7. Yeah.
Philly Chicago, I know, was one as well. Montreal Orlando, I remember seeing that one was a draw. The rest elude me at the moment, but there's a lot of draws for this league, especially where in the past we have seen some pretty segmented divisions, both West and East, and you would see clear winners and losers emerge to kind of create a top 6, top 7, and bottom 7, bottom 8.
Only match week 1.
Happen again. Yeah.
Only match week 1. And
Agreed.
Champions Cup is ongoing. Mm-hmm. How much do you think Champions Cup played into those tight games against teams who you would expect there to be? For example, Philadelphia should be beating Chicago at home. No matter how good Chicago looked. Like Philadelphia
Chicago looked really good.
Right. But Philly have been near the top of the East the last few seasons. Maybe this is where resetting your priors comes in. But they've been top last few seasons. They have Champions Cup. Need to do some rotation. They've still got a game they need to win against Saprissa coming up this week. So maybe that factors into the 2-2.
I believe there was a stat thrown out on Twitter, and I don't remember who said it. It was, I want to say, one of the MLS pundits. Doyle, yeah. So 0 Champions Cup teams won this week.
Yep.
I think it was 0, 5, and 1.
Mm-hmm.
If that doesn't say enormous impact on performances, I don't know what does. The fact that every team competing in the Champions Cup did not win. Crazy.
Hey,
That
we've got a
informs
comment.
a lot of things for me.
Yeah, we've got a comment here. Eric Ramsey officially named Minnesota head coach. Do we want to go into the Minnesota game?
Sure, yeah. Minnesota won on the road. Only team to do so on the road, actually, which was very interesting because I did pick I had a side bet, right? You know, I know we did our put your money where your mouth is type thing, but I actually also picked Minnesota as part of a side 3-leg that I did not win because there was a draw with Miami and Galaxy, and I had picked Galaxy to win that one. So, but I felt very vindicated because I did pick Minnesota. I had picked Minnesota, Dallas, Galaxy money lines, and
Oh, unfortunate.
yeah, 2 or 3.
Unfortunate. You got the
Yeah,
away one right too.
I know, crazy, right?
Yeah. Was it because of Eric Ramsey?
You
New
know
head
what?
coach?
I don't know if it was because of Eric Ramsey, but
Right.
look, Minnesota, if I recall correctly, they were missing some key pieces as well. And interestingly enough, they did really well when they were missing Reynoso last year, and they're missing Reynoso again right now. I think they're also missing Longwane, if I remember correctly. So,
Yep.
I mean,
They're missing both of them.
look, Longwane was an impact guy last year. So, credit to a very mentally tough and committed Minnesota team. Because when you're missing impact players and you can still pull out a road win in MLS, that's huge. I honestly have no idea if the head coach played anything into that at all because Minnesota did great without Reynoso last year. So who knows? Maybe that's a team mentality thing. And if so,
Yeah,
distill it, write a book, and sell that to the rest of the teams in the league.
Minnesota dominated the match. Absolutely dominated the match. 19 shots, 10 shots on target. To Austin's 6 shots, two shots on target. So everything was going Minnesota's way up until literally the last kick of the game, where Austin had a good team play to get the goal. But it was all Minnesota. I was really impressed with Jeong Song-bin, their new winger forward. He looked quick, he looked dynamic, he looked dangerous, and I feel like he could be really important this season to allowing Minnesota to unlock the attack that they've been trying to unlock for years and years and years. Whereas they would have a decent attack, but they wanted to take that next step. I think he could, first game against a bad Austin, I think he could really be good for them, though. He looked like he had the quality in the final third and the speed of getting the ball to the final third to really help free up Pookie and Reynoso and Bongi and Fragapane and Robin Laud. And if all those guys can stay fit and firing, I think having Seong Bin on the right to be that outlet could be really good for Minnesota. And it was a pleasant surprise. It was a pleasant surprise because they've been really struggling with getting some good signings up in the attack.
Yeah, well, I mean, Pookie, jury personally still out for me on Pookie. I need to see what he can do with a whole season. I mean, it seems like he's been on a roller coaster of production where he'll have a really good year, he'll have a very mediocre year, he'll have a really good year, he'll have a mediocre year, he'll have then a bad year, and then he'll have a good year. So I don't know what we're getting out of Pookie, truthfully.
Yeah, he was decent in this match.
Yeah,
but nothing too great, nothing too bad.
right. Well, look, I mean, ultimately, you can't be a team that relies on one player though, so they're going to need to get some production out of Pookie at some point this year.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of teams that rely heavily on one player, this is going a little bit out of order, but you want to talk about Nashville, New York Red Bull?
Yes, and then after that we'll hit on Seattle because we've got another question in the chat.
Okay.
But yeah, we can do Nashville.
So no Hani and no Surridge is surely your storyline. Red Bulls, some would say unlucky not to score. Forsberg looked the part from the weekend. Very much looked the part, mind you. So Joe Willis doing phenomenal work in goal. What do you do in Nashville? I don't even know where to begin with that though. I was very excited about the Tyler Boyd signing. I've been high on him. especially since seeing some really good production out of him at Galaxy last year. And yes, in theory, Mukhtar, okay, hopefully not out too long. Surridge, worst case scenario, he's out 8 weeks, but teams are always very conservative when they talk worst case scenario. But this just feels like more of the same out of Nashville, personally.
It was more of the same. At halftime, I believe they had one shot, if that. They couldn't create anything through their attack, and I think they had Schaffelberg, Boyd, and Bunbury up top. So if anybody bet on Nashville, apologies to you, because especially if you hit the over on Nashville, because they were getting nowhere near the goal, not until literally the 84th, 85th minute. It was bad, and they did not look good. They actually looked so bad that in the upcoming betting section, I betted on them to lose. That's how bad they looked. It was really bad. A hard watch, a literal snooze fest. Surridge and Hani out. It was just
There was no joy.
No joy. Defensively, they were fine because they're always fine defensively because of their system. Offensively, though, no creativity, no tactics that put players into positions to get in behind. And they had, Boyd and Schaffelberg. You should be able to stretch defenses that with those players, but absolutely not the case. And
but who's going to create that pass?
Exactly. Yeah. So really poor showing at home from Nashville, ended in a 0-0 draw. Red Bulls really should have got a goal. But like you said, Willis was really the main reason why that didn't happen. And Forsberg specifically looked pretty good.
Yeah. I'm going to revise my priors actively on Red Bulls because, Forsberg, especially as he settles further in, again, he has to actually produce, but all the pieces look like they're there.
Yeah, I agree. Nothing more to say there. All right, we got this question. How big will the signings of Nathan and De La Vega impact the Sounders?
Interesting. So I would have liked to have seen a full match of De La Vega. He seemed decent enough when he came on. He had chances where he got into position to take shots. I think he's going to be a good foundational piece once he fully is integrated and is a core player. I'm still kind of hung up on the fact that they didn't move past Rui Diaz. Personally, I don't know with Rui Diaz on the roster, like, where does Seattle go? Because Rui Diaz it's safe to say he's maybe not a legend for Seattle, but he's highly respected. He's going to be a key figure.
I think he's a legend.
Oh, okay.
He scored the game-winning goals for them to win Champions League. Did he not? Or was he scored a goal in the final.
Right. Yeah.
And he's been around for a while. He helped them win. I helped them win MLS Cup. I think he's a certified legend for that club.
Well, look, I'm not a Nashville supporter, so
Seattle. But
Seattle.
Well, I'm not. You're definitely not a Nashville.
Yeah, definitely not.
But he's past it. It's like the same thing with Josef Martinez and him playing in Atlanta. It's one season too long. Rui Diaz is past it. He will have good games and good goals this season, I'm certain, but it is what it is. Nathan at the back and De La Vega in the midfield are going to impact the Sounders a lot because they're going to need a good defense and they're going to need good attacking midfield if they want to score a lot of goals this season, especially with the inconsistencies of Jordan Morris, losing Ladero, and the inconsistencies of Leo Chu.
Thank goodness they still have Joao Paulo.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. So I think that's
That's
a really
it.
good question.
Yeah. I think the Nathan signing, I'm actually almost a bigger fan of, just because really good defensive players in MLS pay dividends when you can trust guys to be able to build out of the back and possess, because that's what sets up your offense to actually be able to move forward, become aggressive in how they play, take those chances because you trust that you're not going to lose the ball due to an errant long pass. You can trust that the distribution is going to be there. You can trust that the retention is going to be there, that you're not going to get pressed out of having the ball. So I'm glad you brought up Nathan as well,
Well, I
because
didn't bring him up.
I'm
The
glad
chat
you
did.
and right, the royal you.
Yes, yes, for
But
sure.
yeah, I'm glad that Nathan was brought up because I think he may actually be more of an impact signing, not from a scoring standpoint, but just from like a game control and comfortability standpoint.
Yeah, he's going to help lay the foundation to allow De La Vega to have those attacking moments of brilliance. De La
Yeah,
Vega coming off injury, not fully match fit. I'll wait to pass judgment on him. He looked decent, scored the penalty. So on we
right.
go.
Well, scoring penalties is not for everyone, though, as we saw from this past match week.
Well, do we want to hit on LAFC real quick?
Oh
I
yeah,
guess
yeah,
we
yeah.
talked about Seattle,
We
but we
should,
didn't talk about the
yeah,
winners of the game.
right. We should hit on LAFC. So I have to say I was actually very low on LAFC. I thought they were going to struggle more with the amount of
Me too.
turnover and leadership that they lost. Not to say that this is indicative that they're not going to struggle at all. I mean, this is the home opener, and I think they were at home, so there's always going to be some boost for playing at home, especially against a fairly successful and storied club like Seattle. But they did not drop off to the degree that I thought they would, and I have to give credit there because I guess they will be probably competitors for a home playoff spot safely. I might even say,
LAFC?
yeah,
It would take a
I
lot. It would take a lot for
yeah,
them to not be in that top four race this season.
I had very low confidence going in, and I'll own that. I was like, they lost so many, key players. They lost leadership. You lost Vela. You lost Acosta. You lost. Oh, they lost their right back. Who is it?
Hollinshead?
Yeah.
They lost
Or
Hollinshead?
wait, was it right back or left back?
Oh, you're thinking Palacios.
Yeah, Palacios.
Yes, they did lose him. Yep.
Yeah.
They've had a lot of moving pieces. I agree. I was low on them. I don't think I
Right.
was low enough. We never actually did our predictions, which I'm fine with. But I was never low enough on them to not be outside the top four, just because they always seem to find the necessary pieces to play well. And Sharundelo's got a great play style, and he's a great coach. So, but I was low on them. I didn't even. We'll talk about it later. I didn't think they were going to win the game.
I also did not think they were going to win the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
So,
didn't
but they
stop
proved
me
us wrong.
from yeah, it didn't stop me from putting a bet on them to win the game because the because the
Because
odds
that
were
makes sense.
yeah, because the odds were really good and I was like, look, home slant is really strong in MLS, so
Yeah. Well, how about that Bogusz goal?
okay, how about it?
How about that? Was a great goal. I love those types of goals. Just those curlers, they're just so pleasing on the eye. And to do that
Ooh,
in the opening game, um, just fantastic. And that's a player that I've given some stick in the past.
you have.
So, uh, starting at up top, I think he was in a free roaming striker position. He wasn't really the actual striker, but that's where he was on the team sheet. He gets a goal for them. So big performance from Bogusz, and long may it continue. Great goal.
Yeah. I was very I was I don't know if I would say I was very surprised to not see Vela return because it seemed like many people thought Vela would return. So I kind of bought into that and said, well, he'll probably return, maybe not as a DP, but in some capacity. So, but they didn't seem to lack creativity or any sort of ability to generate chances. I mean, but legitimately, they might have even been better off without him because they had players that had the pace and the ability to go a full 90.
Yeah, really, both teams had chances in this match. Even Seattle, missing their key pieces, had chances too. So, yeah, it was a great match. It's one of my favorite of the weekend.
Interesting. All right. Well, we should. Do we have any other comments before I take us back
I'll let you
into the
go.
actual?
No more comments right now.
I'll take us back to the actual order of things so I don't totally lose our place here. But do you want to talk about the first match from the weekend itself, Columbus versus Atlanta?
Yes, but I see that's first on the agenda, but I don't
Right.
think we actually talked about the first match of the season on the podcast.
Yeah, I didn't. I don't think we did talk about it. I didn't take any notes on it.
Okay.
It was on Wednesday, and I'm like, that's too far in the back of my mind, and I don't want to remember back that far.
Miami
versus RSL.
looked decent. RSL had chances to score.
And did not.
Miami's defense did not look great.
Yeah.
They could not finish. Oh my gosh, I'm digging deep into the memory banks here.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, Miami had the quality. I think they got 2 goals and won the game. I think 2-0.
2-0 was correct. RSL probably could have scored 2 or even 3 if they had any sort of clinicality, and they were. I mean, it looked like a team that skipped preseason in terms of finishing.
Yeah, they definitely need to work on their finishing. Yep.
Yeah.
So
I was surprised because they have Buonga, and Buonga is one that I
Chicho.
rate very highly. Oh yeah,
Chicho
Rongo.
You are all over the place tonight.
I'm all over the place. See, you've got me.
I see you pouring some alcohol, man.
I know, crazy, right? This is only my first glass of tequila too.
First, I literally saw you pour one, so that's got to be your second.
What? Look, I mean, I don't ever finish a full-on glass.
Okay.
You know,
so you've only had one glass, but you've topped it up 6 times.
No, not 6. That's one. Besides, Gavin, you pour in like an ounce, maybe an ounce and a half of tequila. That's enough.
Yeah, you're the tequila connoisseur, not me.
Connoisseur.
Sorry, connoisseur. Columbus won. Atlanta 0.
They did win. You're right.
Ooh. That was hilarious.
It was. Thank you. I'm glad you laughed at it. Yes. So Columbus won. Atlanta 0. Hot take. The Crew kind of just picked up where they left off, including in terms of defense, because Atlanta really probably should have scored at least 1, maybe 2. And I think the Crew were lucky to not get scored on, and that is not going to be sustainable for a full season. They
not to win the Shield, correct?
Yeah,
not to win the Shield, but sustainable enough to win the Cup. They did it last season.
They did it last season. Yeah, I mean,
they could do it again.
They could do it again, but I don't.
You don't see it.
The East is going to be a buzzsaw of a conference.
Mm-hmm.
I'm convinced the attacking talent in the East has improved still from prior year. If they don't figure out how to manage to close out games against sharp defenses, I think it's going to bite them. They're going to score goals, but they're going to give up goals.
They had a penalty saved, didn't they?
They did. Yeah, I believe they did have a penalty save, Guzan, because I think and I say we, talking about David, I think David tweeted about Guzan, and then immediately afterwards he saved the PK.
Yes.
Unless you're saying that was you, if you want to own
No, that was David.
Otherwise, okay.
That was David, not me.
Right.
I wasn't watching the game at that point. Yeah. No, I wasn't watching the game at that point, but I did see that there was a penalty saved. But yeah, I think that's the main takeaway from, I think, all of us fans is Columbus picked up where they left off offensively and defensively. So it is what it is.
Hey, quick agree, disagree before we
Okay.
talk about Atlanta. Cucho gone in the summer.
Cucho. Disagree.
Interesting. I think he'll be gone in the summer.
Okay.
I bet
Why?
there is.
What makes you feel that?
He is producing very well.
Mhm.
He's playing exactly how you would look for from like a really top level striker. And the summer, when those big 5 leagues are going out looking for talent, MLS is becoming more known as a talent place. Cucho was in the Premier League before too. I mean, he's
True.
not an unknown quantity.
Yep.
Someone's going to come back and say, "Hey, we'll give you a boatload of money for Cucho."
That's fair. Yeah,
And
that's fair.
Let's face it, he's probably going to say yes to go. I think most players would say yes to going to a Big 5 league.
Yeah, as long as they're getting paid, right?
Right.
We saw that with Robinson. But yeah, I get that. I still think he stays. I could see him holding on until the end of the season and then going in the winter.
Maybe. I think the winter, it's interesting because I think this past year was a very weird winter window. And I wonder if that cautions some players that are looking for the move that now are going to say, well, I was fine to stay until the end of the season, but all these other players that thought they were going to get an end of season move didn't get the end of season move they were looking for and probably won't until summer, i.e. Almada.
Mm-hmm. Brandon Vasquez had options abroad, right? And
He did.
Cincinnati said no because y'all wanted to take a stab at winning a trophy, which y'all won. So maybe that could contribute to it.
Yeah, he had European options in summer, and then
But that's
those European
the hard
options
thing.
did not exist in winter, and he went to Mexico, where he's doing quite well at Monterrey.
He's doing fantastic. I don't want to stay on this topic too long, but strategically as a league, we are positioning ourselves to be a more selling league, right?
Right.
But teams don't want to sell their best players in the middle of the season.
They don't.
Not their best young players.
Not if they're competing to actually win something. If
Yes.
you are if you're a bottom echelon team, right? Like if you're in the 9 to 14 slot, and it's unlikely that you're making the playoffs, or even if you do, you might make the play-in game. You're, I think, fine to sell that player for big money if a $10 million offer comes in.
But how many $10 million offers are coming in on those types of teams? Maybe Alphonso Davies.
Yeah.
Very, 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 very rare.
Very
rare.
fair. Very fair.
To say very rare. Right. So the best teams are going to have the best talent. The best talent are going to generate the best offers. And we don't want to sell those players in the middle of the season. Teams don't want to do that. They want to fight for trophies. But at the same time, we have this other side of the scale that we want to be a selling league. So which is it? Where does the balance lie? I think Columbus struck it really well. Sold Zelarayan, got Rossi in immediately, went and won MLS Cup. Now, could they do the same thing? They absolutely could. But Cucho is so integral to how they play. I think they'll try to hold on to him for as long as they can.
I think you're right that they'll try to hold on, but I think at a certain point, there is a dollar value on every single player.
Yes. Atlanta looked not as good as I thought they would in this match. Do you put that down more to Columbus or Atlanta?
Atlanta. They did not look good away really at any point last season. And maybe we can say Atlanta picks up as well where Atlanta left off, in that they don't seem to do well on the road. I mean, they had players that they brought in. They had key continuity within Almada. They still had Muyumba. Yeah, they lost Robinson. So does that change the way that they retain possession at the back? Maybe so. Gregerson, pretty lucky, I'd say, to not get called for... or no, he did get called. That's right. VAR did go back to call that for a penalty, but Yeah, and then Mo Parsi injured, went off from that Gregerson tackle as well, which is an absolute shame. We saw some rough injuries too. We'll talk about more of them later, but yeah, Farsi being out injured as well hurts Columbus.
Yep,
So
just signed a new
hopefully not a long
contract
term.
too.
Yeah, I hope it's like just a 1 week knock.
Yeah, hopefully. Okay, shall we get on to Philadelphia, Chicago? I think that's our next match.
Yeah, so Andrew Gutman goes off in like the first minute, non-contact injury.
Hate to see it.
Hate to see it. I don't think I've seen any official confirmation, but non-contact injuries in MLS seem to overwhelmingly be an ACL.
Yeah, one of those really bad ones, ACL or MCL or whatnot. Yep. So that's a hard one to take for Chicago.
Yeah. Well, if they posted on it, I mean, look, obviously, I hope it's not an ACL. I hope he's back in action as soon as possible. But I mean, I was distressed looking at it because I really like Gutman. I really enjoy him as a player. I was very happy when he was here in Cincinnati. I was happy when he stayed in the league, even though Cincinnati did not retain him. He was a joy for Colorado. I was hoping he was going to be a joy for Chicago.
He's just a fun player to watch.
I like Gutman. He's just a really enjoyable player, and MLS is a better league for having him in it. So, but yeah, I mean, continuing on, I was so impressed with the way that Chicago played. I actually put a live bet at 0-0 on Chicago to win. And that very nearly panned out at the end.
Nearly.
Yeah.
You were pretty upset come 90
Mhm.
plus 3 or whatever it was.
Yeah, that very nearly paid out. So that was just like a straight bet on it. I put like $2-3 on it. It wasn't anything major. I was just like, oh look, it's plus +4 +500 odds. Like I'll put $2 on this to win 10. That's great, cool, wonderful. So
they looked good,
really good. They looked really good. Did. I think going back to that topic of reevaluating our priors, Chicago's one I think we need to really take a good, long, hard look at because they played with more identity and more ideas in the way that they wanted to attack than I recall seeing last year from them.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to shout out Timothy Holtz, our Chicago Fire correspondent, for some correspondent corner action here. He said Fire looked better than they have in a season opener in a long, capital long time. But if they're still blowing leads in stoppage time, does it matter? Still, a point away at Philly is nothing to scoff at. Absolutely not. That was their issue last season, right? So we're talking about resetting our priors, but this is now a continuation of them having the lead late, giving up the lead, dropping points because of it. So we want to throw away our priors, but this is now a continuation of a trend. So that's something that I'm going to be keeping an eye on for sure. But again, as Tim said, away against Philadelphia, it's not the end of the world to get a draw there. They looked good. They looked good. They looked dangerous. Brian Gutierrez scored that banger of a shot. I've been a fan of Gutierrez for a couple seasons now, and hopefully he can have a coming out season this season because he's a good player. He's a really good player. I think he has potential to go very, very far in this league and potentially into Europe if he reaches his ceiling. But yeah, I'd love to see it. I love to see it. Yep. But Chicago's getting all the love, I feel like, from the media because it's not the expectation for them. Philadelphia, on the other hand, it's also not the expectation for them to struggle like this, but they still do eke out a 2-2.
Right. I think your call earlier about Champions Cup teams struggling is very much a factor here for Philadelphia, and they did struggle last year because I think they also made Champions Cup last year, and they didn't do too hot in the season. While they were in Champions Cup, there was the hangover, of course. So, yeah, is this one that we read into? I mean,
no, they had the hardest. Yeah. They had the hardest Champions Cup game, in my opinion, of all the MLS teams. Saprissa were extremely physical in their match. It was away. Philadelphia. I was about to say Philadelphia was away, and I believe it was windy, wet, cold, like all the things, right? Maybe not raining, but it was windy.
That's different than the Midwest.
No.
I guess Philly's on the East Coast, but
yes, but Saprissa were extremely physical. Philadelphia had to. It was their first game of the season. Philadelphia had to really dig deep and get through that match, which they did. They got the Carranza hat trick, but it was still a very difficult, taxing match for them. So flying back later in the week, having MLS action against a fired up Chicago, it was a difficult match for them for sure. And I'm going to give them the excuse. I'm absolutely going to give them the excuse right now. It takes nothing away from Chicago's performance, but for now they have that leeway for me.
That's very fair. I think a larger conversation maybe is, do all the Champions Cup teams get the excuse? Because I believe a vast majority of those MLS teams were away. And they were away midweek. So they came back. I know Cincinnati came back, I think, Thursday. So they're flying in Thursday. You get Thursday night to adjust. Friday, you probably have a day off, or you do a recovery day. Saturday, you're back maybe doing like a pre-match practice. And then Sunday, you have your season opener. And that's not to say that that's unique to Cincinnati. I mean, Philly also played away. I guess St. Louis, Houston, they, made a trip south for a very, or they made a trip north for a very short jaunt. But many of the teams in Champions Cup had a little bit of a travel, a little bit of a commute to the workplace.
Nashville, Philly, Orlando, Cincinnati. Yep. Houston.
None of those teams won.
None of them won. Yep. So I agree. There is that as well, the fact that they were away. If they were home, maybe it's a different story. Okay, let's move on.
I guess we can move on. I'll allow
What were we going to say?
Nothing.
You were going to say nothing? Okay.
Not important anymore. Nope.
Well, we've been going for an hour, and we are barely through all these matches.
What do you mean barely? Gavin, we've talked about so many.
We're probably like 40% through.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Gavin, give us a light speed journey of Orlando, Montreal.
We're on that one?
We're on that one.
Yeah. Shoot. Okay.
This is already taking too long. Come on, Gavin. Chop, 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 chop.
The main thing I'll say is Montreal set up in a 5-2-2-1. It was a nasty 5-2-2-1. Think of how many players were in the center of the field, and Orlando just could not get through it, unfortunately. And Montreal started the game well, had a couple of chances from their press. Eventually, the game got into a settled pattern of Orlando dominating the ball, and then it was poor execution from Orlando on the night. And there was a couple of offsides. We had an offside goal, and we had an offside penalty, both of them taken away from the call on the field, actually. So that was the correct call from the replacement refs. Both times the ref raised his flag and VAR confirmed it. So that was nice to see. And then Montreal had a chance at the death, which is what they were looking for. They were definitely looking for a 1-0, try to smash and grab a win. And Gallese had to come up big and make a save. So Galase's already got a point on the season for me, for Orlando City. Ended up being a pretty boring 0-0, except for the last about 10-15 minutes.
Is Gallese a legend of Orlando?
That's a hard one. He's been at the club, I think, 5 seasons now. He's definitely our best goalkeeper since our USL era in terms of quality of player to the quality of the league. for sure.
He has a fun nickname.
He does have a fun nickname, and he has won a trophy with us. He was our goalkeeper for our first ever win in the playoffs.
First ever win?
No, in the playoffs. First ever win in the playoffs. I don't know. That's a hard one. I wouldn't classify him as a legend yet. I would like to see us win a cup, MLS Cup or Supporter Shield, before giving him that classification.
Open Cup erasure. I see.
Open Cup's good, but I don't think that gives you legend status.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
That's all I've got. Montreal looked good though. They looked good defensively, and they could have won the game. They really could have, if just for a little bit of a better finish at the end by Opoku.
Hey, look, low blocks work. Just ask Burnley.
Yes.
They managed to stay up for many years. And then they would keep getting up because no one likes to play against Burnley, and everyone was happy to see them go down every time they went down.
It's a beautiful thing. Yeah, that's all I've got.
All right. Very good. Shall we move on then to DC United versus New England Revolution? Vrioni ruining every single person's hopes for New England. Ridiculous.
Oh my gosh. What? Brainless challenge from Vrioni. What was he thinking? I've seen a lot of people saying that's curtains for him. That was the last straw. Literally opening weekend of the season. He's had a rough 2 seasons. Opening weekend, yellow card challenge from behind while already on a yellow card. And people are like, I'm done. No more Vrioni. I'm over it. So disappointing to see. Hope he can bounce back. But my goodness, what a terrible challenge.
Hey, talking about strikers that are doing good, though. Benteke. Hat trick.
Hat trick. Did you see the first goal?
Highlights, yes, but I didn't see any in-depth analysis of it.
Okay.
Walk me
First
through it,
goal.
because I have a suspicion that you watched much more of this match than I did.
I had to go back and rewatch the highlights, the more in-depth highlights, not just the 6-minute package. But the goal is one concerning the potential future need for goal line technology. So Benteke heads the ball, and the keeper kicks it out, and it to me, it's not clear and obvious that it went over the line. It looks like it went over the line. It looks like it for the most part, but I don't think it's clear.
Time.
Yeah, in real time with the camera angles, but it's a camera angle, right? And we've seen how finicky camera angles can be, especially with the lines of the ball going over the line. Did it not? And so I really struggle to trust the camera angles when it comes to the ball going over the line. And when I say it looks like it went in, I'm talking like a millimeter. I'm not talking like 3 or 4 inches where you can see green grass in between. It would literally, if this goal was given in the Premier League, it would literally be like the tiniest of margins. And so this is another one where I'm like, wow, we really need goal line technology in this league. It's absolutely something we need, because this could have not been a goal. It really could have not been a goal. I'm not sure.
Equally,
it looked like it was,
but it stayed a goal.
Well, it wasn't called a goal. So this is the thing that I'm very surprised about. It wasn't called a goal on the field. VAR turned it into a goal with, in my opinion, unclear and obvious evidence. But maybe that's just home team advantage. I don't know. I didn't see anything clear and obvious about the call. So I was very surprised to see it given. I don't think the regular guys would have given it. I think they would have stuck to the call in the field.
I agree with you that the regular guys probably stick to more calls on the field. And I would say that is probably true of multiple matches across the weekend.
I don't even think the VAR would have called him over. I think they would have said, that's not clear and obvious, so I'm not calling a VAR review. Play on.
Yeah. I think there is probably, I know we're going back into referees, but this is a new point that I'd like to bring up. I have a suspicion that the familiarity between the PSRA referees that are operating VAR and center official in matches, that there is a level of either they know each other or have rapport with each other, and they either don't want to make each other look bad or they just trust the person in the middle, that it's like, I don't have anything, that definitively shows me without beyond a shadow of a doubt, and or maybe they're like waffling one way or the other and they say, I'm just going to trust the call on the field. These referees haven't been working together for years, potentially decades in some of their cases, so they're probably looking at every single thing with intense scrutiny and skepticism of the call on the field. And I think that's
Yeah,
going to lead to more forensic type calls.
and they know we're talking about them. Like, we are literally here. We are an outlet talking a lot about the referees in this podcast, and everyone's going to be talking about referees. Especially, I did it too. I'm the one who brought it up. Especially with the lockout, they know they are the center of attention, so they know they want to get calls right. And I'm sure there is politics to the regular guys with the VAR and overturning the call on the field. There's a little bit of ego there. There's a little bit of undermining the ego there by saying your call was wrong. What you saw and what you called was incorrect. You need to give a penalty. This was not a penalty. This was a goal. This was not a goal. Offsides, on and on. So that's a really good point. That's not there with these guys and gals because they haven't worked together. They're just focused on getting the right call. And we saw some really long reviews. I don't know how long this one was because it was cut off in the highlights, but I was really surprised that they gave it. It didn't look clear and obvious to me. And then the second goal for Benteke, again, going back to the discussion of technology and referees.
You want the lines, don't you?
I don't want the lines, but this one looked like if there were lines, it would have been taken away, which I think is interesting.
Not the first time this discussion has happened, for the record.
Right.
There's always a couple goals every single year that it sparks the, well, if we had the lines and, you get the guy, you get,
to clarify, the offside lines, like the Premier League has.
Right. You always get like the guy like soccer telemetry who does like the post match, trying to line them up and measure by what amount they were either onside or offside. And every year there's always a couple high profile ones that seem to get pulled up and used forever. So
yeah, so that one could have been offside. I think I posted about it on our account today. And then the last one, that one was a fair goal. I'm not going to be mad at that one. All I'll say is Benteke still got some ups. He jumped up pretty high there. He jumped over the goalkeeper's reach.
Right.
So that was
putting in
impressive.
the notes here, Gavin begrudgingly stops being a Benteke hater for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm not a Benteke hater. Just I'm calling what I see. Gilles got a banger in this match to be Gilles. And then some correspondent corner, Matt Glenn for New England Revolution. He's a New England Revolution correspondent for us. He said, inauspicious start to the season for Vrioni. His unnecessary red card on Saturday will accelerate the decision that's been waiting to be made about his time at the Revs. It's too bad it hasn't been working out for him as the team striker. By all accounts, he's a good guy and a good team guy. The central defense is still not back to where we hoped it would be due to injuries. My hope is that soon the Revs will be moving forward, making progress on these two fronts, and we'll see what this team can really accomplish this season. New keeper looks promising. Let's keep him around for a bit. Yeah. P.S. Sensational goal by Gilles. 1 or 2 of those a game, and things will be looking up. So that's our thoughts from our correspondent, Matt. So thanks, Matt, for the addition there. And I think we're going to move on unless you have anything else.
I'm good. I want to talk about my biggest disappointment of the weekend. Charlotte winning over NYCFC. I was convinced going into this that there was no way NYCFC loses to Charlotte, and they lost to Charlotte. And I was like, what the heck, NYC? You made all this hubbub about signing these players who are going to be impact guys, and you brought back some team iconic players and legends, and you lose to Charlotte, who have shipped off half their starters and, as far as I can tell, seemingly haven't brought in anyone new, and I've seen nothing about them in the news and other than, a coach. What's going on? So, anyways, obviously Nick Cushing is to blame. Going by NYCFC Twitter, it's the only thing that can explain why they continue to just be dreadful in all aspects and horrific to watch, whether they're at home on a baseball field or whether they're away on, in this case, a turf field, neither of which people want to see in the league either way. So it's grumble.
I was
convinced they were going to win. I was so certain. I was like, this seems like the safest thing in the world. And Charlotte won.
I am sneakily bullish on Charlotte because they no, they got in Dean Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Dean Smith.
Right. And who did they get out?
I don't know. Who'd they get out?
Like everyone. Did you not? Okay.
Did they exodus their roster?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that at all.
I mean, gone.
all the noises coming out of Charlotte seem pretty promising to me, even though they've apparently gotten rid of a lot of their guys, but those guys weren't doing good for them.
You know what? That's fair. That's very, you know what?
It's not like they got rid of their best players and that's like, oh my gosh, what are they going to do? Like,
well, I mean, look, is there a best player on Charlotte from the prior years? Yeah. Okay.
No.
So I will admit you've got me on that one. Maybe this is,
okay.
Addition by subtraction.
Right. So I don't know. Dean Smith coming over from England. He's got the experience of coaching in the championship in the Premier League. And I think that could be a little bit of a advantage to Charlotte tactically. I do think the tactics and the coaching over in England are much more advanced than our coaching and tactics here. And I think he could bring a lot of that to the Charlotte team, and that could be of advantage to them as the season pans out, especially in game, because in game there's a lot of tweaks that go on, and I think there's more tweaks and more nuanced changes that happen in England that we don't do here. There are still tweaks and changes that coaches make in matches here all the time. I just think there's a little bit more smaller changes that have bigger results over in England, and I think Dean Smith has that experience. That's why I'm kind of bullish on them.
All right, I'm going to stay bearish.
Okay. Either way, Matt Freese was the only reason this stayed 1-0 because he was pretty good.
Yeah, Matt Freese was pretty good. He was supposed to. I remember last year in fantasy, I picked him as my starting keeper because I was like, surely this guy that just signed for NYCFC wouldn't sign to be a backup, and then promptly did not see any significant starting minutes for most of the season. So I'm happy that Freese is starting.
And I do know Freese left Philly because he wanted to play.
Right.
Yeah. So
anyways, hashtag Nick Cushing out.
Just keep playing the drums, my friend.
Yeah.
Nick.
Yeah. Our correspondent Coach Joe will thank me for banging the drums on his behalf.
For sure. All right. What's next?
Dallas San Jose is next on my list.
Okay.
Yeah.
San Jose's
something
kit.
Profound.
Yeah. San Jose's kit, the white and red, very odd. Very weird. San Jose are blue in my mind. They are not red.
Yeah, see,
why are they wearing red?
Blue.
There is no blue. There's no hint of blue anywhere on that kit. They scored a goal, and I was like, Who just scored? Dallas or San Jose? I don't understand what's going on here. So, yeah.
I love that I said say something profound, and we went
I did.
to the,
I said
to
something
the
very
only
profound.
thing less profound than referee talk. Kid talk.
I mean, I guess is saying Espinoza picked up where he left off.
That's not
profound.
No.
He's the one carrying their San Jose's attack. He's the only one who impacted them offensively yet again.
Yeah. Well, hey,
that's a prior. I'm not resetting.
Other players impacted San Jose last year. It's just they happened to also not finish any of the goals that they did fancy footwork and amazing runs to do, and then did not capitalize on it. And maybe play in Mexico now. If you're picking up what I'm laying down.
Kid Cal. Yep.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. You got it.
So
you were smelling what I'm stepping in.
He wasn't doing much either last season, so I don't know. So Dallas had to come back though.
To watch.
He was fun to watch. Yes. Dallas did have to come back though. Ia Ramendi got a banger.
Mm-hmm.
Nice little touch. I think it was left-footed, finishing the bottom left corner. Beautiful goal. Go look it up if you haven't seen it. And then gotta love a comeback winner.
Right.
Right.
MLS loves a late winner. Look,
late comeback winner. That's right.
We absolutely could not tolerate 8 draws.
No.
In the opening weekend. So Dallas did some good work for everyone's sanity.
Yeah. I think we've reached parity. When you bring up the talk of draws, we're going to talk through a couple more, especially once we get to the Sunday matches. But
not only are we going to talk through a couple more, we've got the bulk of
them left.
Yeah, almost every match that we have to talk about remaining is a draw. This is
well, maybe let's fly through them.
Yeah,
congrats to Dallas on the win.
Yeah, let's fly through some draws. Do you want to fly through? Do you want to talk one more non-draw before we just talk only draws?
Yeah, let's do that.
And then we'll tie a bow on it.
I love it. Yes.
Portland, Colorado. I was convinced, again, I'll own it. I'll put my hand up and say I was convinced that Phil Neville was going to be a horrific, terrible hire. I will also say I'm still not convinced that he isn't, but he did win 4-1 against Colorado. Good transitional play from them. Colorado, despite quote-unquote winning the offseason, pulling a good old Cleveland Browns and being off-season champions, they did not seem to realize any sort of on-field, in-season success this week. Again, week 1, anything could happen still. I mean, Chris Armas has only been there for a short period of time. They've brought in tons of new people, so there's a little bit of gelling that has to happen there. But this was maybe my most unexpected result of the weekend, if I'm being honest.
Hey, want to know a fun fact?
Yeah, hit me with a fun fact.
Portland generated, per MLS's stats board, 0.5 expected goals.
That is a very non-fun fact. There is no fun in that level of goal creation.
And Colorado generated 1.4 expected goals. And yet they lost 4-1. That's XG for you. So
that is Colorado for you.
Yes. No. Yeah. I think that is where I'm going with this. Portland were clinical. They were doing their thing. Strong at transitions. The really new thing for them was the execution. Anthony was electric. I don't know if you had a chance to watch the game. I know you were at the Cincinnati game. But this game was also late in the day, so I don't know. But
this game wasn't even on the same day as the Cincinnati game.
Oh, this was Saturday night. Sorry. Well, I don't know. Maybe you had to go to sleep early. Yeah, I'm not getting out of that one.
Well, I am getting older. Sleep does
Yes.
come for me earlier every single year that I age. So.
Well, you only had to be awake for the first half to see Anthony and his electricness. He looked better than Manchester United's Anthony. I mean, he looked really
that
good.
is a low bar.
Very
Gavin.
low bar. Very low bar. Gets 2
I
goals.
look better than Manchester United's Anthony.
Fair. He gets 2 goals. He's involved in 3 of the 4 because he causes the own goal as well. And Portland were just lethal on the day. And, Phil Neville said when hyping up the new signing that's coming in, that I believe was Anthony, that they're looking for someone who's going to be a game changer and that can win games on his own. And I had kind of joked and said, yeah, because his tactics aren't going to win games for them. But
they still might not.
They still might not. But if you can get a player who can,
XG.
if you can get a player who will win the game for you, then you look mighty good as a coach. So that's all I'll say there. And then good to see Eric Williamson back playing and on the score sheet. Hopefully he can stay fit for more than a couple games this season.
Yeah, I am not set to jump to any conclusions at all off this match. I need to see at least
for both sides.
More matches. Yeah, I need to see at least 2 more matches for both sides. I want to believe so hard that Colorado will be good this year. And I
told you there's going to be transition here. It's not going to be just automatically, boom, they're good.
I want to believe. X-Files, Gavin. I want to believe.
Not with Chris Armas at the helm.
Okay, look, Gavin. So I'm believing. Okay, I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I have no empirical data that proves that. Hey, let's talk about something that is empirically not exciting. Draws.
Yeah, we can probably turn off the podcast here if you're listening.
All right, well, there we go. And let's just move on here to our wrap-up segment here. With
Houston won, SKC won. Tommy scored a really nice goal. It was all individual brilliance from him.
Mm-hmm.
That's about all I got for SKC. Anything from you?
No. Hey,
and then,
question. Did Houston dominate this match?
I don't think so.
There seemed to be a narrative that Houston dominated this match.
I mean, they were the better team, but Tommy did his individual brilliance thing.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go look at the stats. I didn't get the feeling that they were dominant.
Our SKC correspondent will thank you. He will jump into the chat right now and be like, "Thank you, Gavin, for speaking sense."
It was 12 shots to 6, 62% possession to 38. So,
well, it ended 1-1. So.
Yeah, ended 1-1. The only other thing I wanted to call out was I thought Houston was getting some joy on SKC being on SKC's left side and passing it over SKC's right defender. They had a couple of chances. Brad Smith had a goal called off for offsides, which I think it was offsides because Karaskia was offsides in the buildup. And then I think their actual goal came from that as well. So they were getting some joy passing it from Houston's right to Houston's left. And so maybe that's an area where SKC need to look at. That was the only...
to see Houston without Baird.
Well, we got our first taste of it.
Yeah. It was a draw.
It was a draw.
Very
okay,
good.
Next.
Hey, I'm going to draw us over to the next one. St. Louis, RSL. I picked St. Louis to win this one. I was convinced that they would win because RSL played midweek against Miami, and I was like, they're on a short amount of rest. Surely that will go poorly for them. Anyways.
Well, St. Louis were also on short amount of rest.
But they had more rests, I believe. I think they had one more day rest.
I just don't think that factors anymore these days.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe sports science has come long enough that 3 days versus 4 days is the same.
Yeah, I think that's something that us fans do because I do the same thing. It's like, oh, we have 4 days rest and they only have 3 days rest. So, come the last 10, 15 minutes of the game, we should be more in shape. And it's like, no, that's not how it works at all these days. If it's just whichever player is in better shape and not injured. And yeah, so Ruiz played at the 10 because they are Krylock-less.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Ruiz deeper for RSL. I don't like him up that high. He wasn't terrible. Wasn't great, though. But this was actually a really fun game to watch. I did see a lot of this game. This was a fun game to watch. A lot of back and forth, both teams, lots of shots. I think it was shots were total for both teams was like, I think 29 or 30. Like it was a really back and forth game. And then the only other thing, yes, it
take
is
a bunch of shots and only score once.
Yeah. And then the only other thing I called out when I was taking notes on this was that St. Louis weren't doing the high press. Is that a learning from last season?
I don't know. Let's ask. Let's ask Bradley Carnell. Let's tweet Bradley Carnell and say, hey, is this a learning from last season?
I think it is. I think it absolutely is. They clearly flamed out come the end of the season. So I think they're taking it slow. They got a lot of games early on with Champions Cup. And I don't think they're going to come out the gate hot just to burn out yet again.
Yeah, I would say that is a fair strategy as well. MLS is a very long season, especially because you got what? Potentially U.S. Open Cup, maybe. Who knows?
For 8 teams.
Yeah, for 8 teams. It's not finalized, though, but you got CONCACAF Champions Cup, MLS regular season, Copa America, if they have anyone who's going to play in that, Leagues Cup, and then you've got MLS Cup. That's a lot of soccer.
And whatever friendlies teams play in.
Right. And Gavin, you cannot forget about MLS All-Stars.
All-Star game.
Yeah.
Can't forget that.
Still have no idea what they're going to do for that this year. Haven't announced it yet, as far as I know.
Yes, they have. I'll look it up. All right, next.
All right. You look that up. Gavin, I'm going to take us to Cincinnati versus Toronto. A riveting 0-0 draw.
Columbus has the All-Star game, by the way.
I know Columbus is the All-Star game. I don't know who they're playing, Gavin.
Oh, I thought you were just saying that you didn't know where it was going to be hosted.
Wait, no, I know where it's going to be hosted, Gavin. We talked about this last year where I was like, I should just drive up to Columbus for this.
East versus West. That's what they need to be doing. Maybe that is what they'll do.
It's what they need to do, but that's not what they're going to do.
Fair. Okay, sorry to Cincinnati and Toronto fans. Cincinnati, this is your game. Yeah. So take it away. I will mute myself.
I enjoyed a wonderful day at the stadium, Gavin. Let me tell you, the sun was shining for the first 45 minutes. It was very nice. I got to enjoy some fresh air. The air temperature was probably in the mid-50s. Really good. Gavin's over there, giving a nice thumbs up to that. Some soccer was being played. It was not particularly attractive soccer, if I'm being quite honest. Herdman, I think, had a very good game plan against Cincinnati. I look at this. I'm choking up remembering this match. It was so emotional. It was honestly, it was actually quite disappointing because Cincinnati, for taking as many shots as they did, generated very little in the way of valuable chances. I went back, I actually looked at the shot map for this because I think they took 16 shots in this match and they generated like 0.6 XG, which I know XG is not an end all be all, but that tells me you are taking low quality shots. Your shot selection, your decision-making process on whether you're going to take the shot or you're going to pass it to someone. In the stadium, I had issues with some of the decision-making on when they chose to pass versus when they chose to shoot, and that shot map bore out kind of what you saw in person. I think ultimately, really what it comes down to is Toronto gummed things up for Cincinnati. They were very, 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 very sticky in the midfield, and there were no answers by Cincinnati.
Sounds like a Herdman team.
Yeah. I mean, I have a suspicion that Toronto is going to be an unpleasant experience for many teams this year, but I would also say in general, we started to see this later in the year as well for Cincinnati. So Cincinnati, I think, need to figure out some options there because they started to get that type of soccer being played against them regularly towards the end of last year, and they could still win. I mean, there was Lucho Brilliance, and he won the MVP award, but you can't rely on a player to have an MVP caliber season every single year to bail out a lack of options in the midfield. You just can't.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Um.
Hey, on the bright side, Gavin, you can now get a spiked slushy in a beer boot at TQL Stadium.
That's pretty cool.
Very
so
cool.
Do you put this down to CCC?
I want to put it down to CCC. I don't know if I fully can, if I'm being honest.
Okay.
Cincinnati does have a lot of new players. They saw a lot of turnover, right? I mean, Oriano replaces Barreal. Vasquez is gone. They didn't have Bupenza starting because he's managing, I guess, a slight injury, so he only played 30 minutes. So they were starting Santos, who I think most Cincinnati fans don't think that he should be a starter for the team. And then they had Baird next to him, and Santos Baird is not exactly what you would call an elite strike force.
Nope.
They have lost a little bit of the calming midfield presence in Junior Moreno. They've traded that out for Buka, who brings a lot more going forward, but it is a different style of play, and Miazga was suspended for this match. So, yes, there's a
lot going on there.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. They don't have a right wing back, so Yuya Kubo is playing right wing back at the moment, and
You lost Barreal.
Yeah, yep. Oriano replaces Barreal, and Toronto drove at a right side of Yuya Kubo and Kip Keller for the vast majority of the game, and they had a lot of very good chances coming off of it. I don't think that match 2 for Cincinnati looks this way because they're going to have Miazga back. His suspension was reduced. They're going to hopefully have Bupenza starting, so there's going to be a little bit more in the way of a first choice selection out there. But yeah, a lot went on. I still don't think that's the only excuse. I think teams are figuring out how to play against Pat Noonan.
That makes sense.
Yep.
He's got to change things up.
Okay. Change things up.
Galaxy 1, Miami 1's our last one.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a note in here about Pooch.
Yeah, Ricky Pooch. Galaxy are so lucky to have Ricky Pooch. I don't think he stays in MLS for much longer, but he's the type of player that I wish they would just pay him loads and loads and loads of money to lock him down there forever, because he's an absolute joy to watch, and he would be an icon for Galaxy.
Yeah, he's a really good player. Generated a lot of attack for them in this game.
And he's been doing that since last year, too. I mean,
even when they didn't have attackers.
Yeah, like Pooch and Tyler Boyd had a great partnership for parts of the year last year, and it's actually what gave me a lot of appreciation for Tyler Boyd. But even without him, Pooch himself, like, just seems to have this sixth sense for when to step into a challenge to pull the ball off an opponent. It's unbelievable how many turnovers he generated just on his own.
It's got to be that Barcelona upbringing.
Potentially,
it has
yeah.
to be.
I mean, Pooch is a delight to have in this league. I hope he stays long term. I don't think he will. I hope he
probably
does.
not. But yeah, he is absolutely a delight. I also was really impressed with both Paintsil and Gabriel Peck. They both looked fantastic. They both were dangerous. Galaxy absolutely dominated this match. So, I mean, if they could improve their end product, the sky's the limit for this offense.
Yeah, execution was not there for them on the night.
Yeah, I will say, 82nd minute, I could see it coming. I put down $1 on a tie for Miami and $1 on a tie, Miami and Galaxy, and I did get it.
Yeah,
I did get it. So
that red card probably helped you.
Yes,
it will get pulled back. I have full confidence that the MLS disciplinary committee will look at that and say, what happened here? Get that red card out of here. You're reinstated for next week.
That was the major incident of the weekend when it comes to the refs.
Yeah.
I think everyone agrees it wasn't a yellow card worthy challenge, wasn't worth getting sent off.
Not only was it not a yellow card,
yeah,
there was no contact made. It was amazing.
Yeah, but that's what I don't want to sound salty, but the refs do lean towards Miami. I don't think it's conscious. I think it's unconscious, but Messi and Busquets and Suarez and Jordi Alba and oh my gosh.
And Gavin, let's
be fair. It's unconscious bias, but it is bias.
This happened in other matches last year when we were using the regular guys, so
yeah, Messi could have got.
It didn't even have to be Messi. Dodgy calls get made all the time.
Yes, they do. But like Messi could have got sent off against Orlando City in the Leagues Cup, just with his play. But he's Messi, so that was never going to happen.
That's fair.
Busquets had a game where he could have been sent off, wasn't sent off.
Busquets has had multiple games where he could have been sent off and is not sent.
There were people calling for Dogso on the penalty. You know, he pulls him back. He's not even going for the ball. You know, the triple jeopardy or whatever it is usually around the player going for the ball in the box, and he's not going for it. He just completely pulls him back. So people were calling for Dogso. They didn't get it. So yeah, that's referee discussion. Overall, Galaxy dominated this match. They need to get better at execution in the final third. And they're not going to have that much space every single week. I think that is a trend we're already seeing with Miami. They're giving up a lot of space at the back.
Absolutely. Hey, Gavin, I want to hit you up on a pseudo-ending topic here. We talked about our horrific experience with sports betting last week. Neither one of us won. The house won in both cases. We donated money to our respective sports books. Obviously, that's going to change this week with our new and improved revised selections. Gavin, would you like to go first?
Oh gosh, yes. Let me pull it up. Last week Seattle is who got me to lose. Who got you to lose? While I pull this up.
Orlando got me to lose. St. Louis got me to lose. Cincinnati got me to lose.
You lost all of them.
All three of those were draws.
All right, I've got St. Louis over NYCFC as one of my three. I've got Colorado over Nashville as the second of my three, both home teams. And then I've got and then I've got Portland to get over 1 goal in their home game against DC. That one I'm slightly nervous on, but they're coming off a 4-goal game, so
they might have used them all up.
That puts me at plus 5-2-3 for the parlay.
Nice. Well, I'm taking Vancouver Whitecaps over Charlotte. Vancouver haven't played in 2 weeks.
Okay.
They're at home.
I would have done Vancouver or tie, but okay.
Well, that was not an
option
at the time of this bet. So.
Oh, okay.
You know, but that option does not become available until like 2 days before the match. So
gotcha.
It's not conducive to me picking on a Monday. That said, Eastern teams tend to struggle going to Vancouver. That's a long trip.
Yes, it is. Yep.
So, yeah, I'm picking Vancouver over Charlotte. I'm picking St. Louis over NYCFC, not because I think St. Louis is good, but because I think NYCFC is bad. Really bad. They looked horrific against Charlotte. So,
that was my reasoning as well.
Yep. And then I'm taking Dallas over Montreal. And I know you don't like that pick. I like that pick.
I think that's your flyer. That's your one
Yeah.
that I think will get you.
It's really funny because that actually has minus 110 odds. It's not even my riskiest pick.
That's
So,
because of last season. That's really
yeah.
because of last season, in my opinion.
Well, either way, I'm sitting at plus 738 is my odds.
So what was the why are they so high?
Because it's 3 money lines.
Oh, is that how that works?
Yeah, that's why my odds are higher, because your over 0.5 goals is considered probably quite safe.
Very safe. Yes.
Yeah. So that pulls
Okay.
down your odds. That's how that works.
Okay. Okay.
3 money lines is, even if one specifically is safe, to get all 3 right is less safe.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. Well, that's okay because you're going to lose that one, and I'm going to win mine going 2 money lines and 1 safe option, and I'll be
Right.
winning and you'll be losing, and I'll be 1-0. So it is what it is.
Well, you'll be 1-1, and you're thinking I'll be 0-2.
I'm thinking of this as you have 0 points and I have 0 points right now.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Gavin, I had one more topic, but honestly, I think we've talked long enough. I can save that one until next week. It's a bonus content.
Yeah. My eyes are getting droopy.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Hey, look, age comes for us all, Gavin. You'll find out even more when you're older.
When I'm 30 like you are.
Look, it's tricky being old.
Can't relate.
I don't know. I woke up today and like my eye, like the top of my eye was sore, and there was no reason for it. And I was just like, why does my body hurt?
You slept too hard.
I slept too hard. Yeah, I've woken up and had like my fingers like cramped, and I'm just like, what am I doing in am I working out in my sleep? Yeah, am I like clenching my fists from rage, from like stress of like adulthood?
Possibly.
Yeah, I figure I probably just like rolled around. I probably like slept on my hand or something, but
Probably.
either way, it's like it's weird waking up and like your body parts hurting and being like, this is a great way to start the day.
Not looking forward to it, my friend. Not looking forward to it at all.
Hey, you know what, Gavin? Wrong attitude. Look forward to it. Embrace it as a daily grab bag of difficulty modifiers for life.
Nope. I refuse.
Right. Well, on that very difficult and sad refusal, Gavin, I think it's time that we wrap it up. So, as always, thank you very much for spending some time with me on this wonderful Monday night, Gavin. To everyone who listened and tuned in, thank you very much as always. This one ran a lot longer than I think either of us were planning. So,
Week 1, baby.
Yeah, week 1. Look, we're in preseason form already. The vocal cords, they're going strong. We could do this all night, but we won't because we have lives and we're old now, apparently. So, Gavin, yeah, I'm old. That's right. Any final words before we call it a night?
Thanks to our correspondents who contributed with their thoughts. Thanks to those who joined the live stream and asked us some questions. And thanks to MLS for another fantastic week of action.
That's right. MLS is back. We're back. And just a quick reminder, you can find us on social media at MLS Now Podcast or on the website at mlsnowpodcast.com. A lot of great content going to be going up there over the course of the season. Some of our correspondents getting a wonderful early start, putting stuff up bright and early today. So there you go. Go check it out. And as always, Gavin, listeners, till next time.
Till next time.